Welcome in. Welcome in. Let's get this off here. I'll tell you what. This morning, I got up, got my coffee, and I always leave the show up on my laptop on one of my screens because if you close it down, you can't go back and see the chat. So StreamYard is going to be separate on that than YouTube. So you might be able to go to YouTube and see the live chat replay. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I've got it checked on, and good on Ted for telling me. Thanks, Ted. The other day that the comments weren't on for the Marilyn Monroe, JFK, Mark Shaw show, and I was able to go right in there and turn them on. I hadn't clicked the box on that. But anyway, the thing is, I got up, I got my coffee, and I sat down. I started looking through the chat to see if there's any questions or, everybody was doing okay, if everybody's okay, just skim over it. I mean, if somebody's having a conversation or something and everything is fine, I try not to, poke my nose in, because I know you guys are, handling stuff. You got it. So I'm looking and I couldn't even finish. I'm laughing so hard. The coffee was about to come out of my nose. And yes, Bernice, you guys get to keep, Lulu, you guys get to keep your wrenches. It was just funny. It was just, we had a great time, and it's so funny how we can laugh and help each other out and talk about a lot of times dark subjects. And we're in here not making fun of the initial situation, but kind of going around it, trying to people are going to be people, I guess you never want to go full human being, I guess. I don't know, because it just seems no matter how far back we dig, people are people and they're going to act like people and they're going to do people-y things. And Scott, it was so funny. Scott put up, I guess you put up love instead of love or whatever, a typo or not, it was perfect because everybody picked up on it and everybody was having fun. And that's the point. That's the point. Not only do you guys get the information and you understand the story and you help, solve it or help add to the story being in the chat, and talking about it. But you can also at the same time have these conversations in the chat and laugh and leave feeling better than you did maybe when you came in. And what could be better than that, So whatever it was funny. It kept on going because, like I said, this morning I got up and I was laughing at the same stuff this morning. It was fabulous. Loved every minute of it. I'm glad you had a good time. And it was absolutely lovely to have Lynn. And I loved the t-shirt. And Brian Bowden got the t-shirt. Now I got to get the t-shirt. I got the hoodie, but now I want the t-shirt. I got the mug. And it just looks so good. She looked so good on it. But then Lynn, makes everything look good. So there you go. But I think I'm going to get one of those t-shirts that look darn good. Thank you all for being here last night. If you were here, if not, if you're new, please, subscribe. It's free. It's not, just hit the button. Hit the button. You're doing me a big favor, and I appreciate it. And you're helping me jump over the hurdles of the algorithms on the inner tubes, and I could use all the help I can get. Because if you like it here, we have great guests. We have a fantastic chat. We have great mods. We laugh. We tell jokes. We go home. No harm, no foul. And one of the best guests I've ever had, and, got to talk on the telephone, talk countless number of episodes on his show, my show, all the shows, doing shows together, doing a book together, just sharing stories. I mean, it's, there's people that come into your life and you're so glad because you look back and you go, gosh, that person really enhanced that chapter. That person added a lot of color or, some mischief or, some laughs and some smiles and some feeling and some heart. And that's Steve Stockton for me. And we have the best conversations. And I'll tell you what, if you ask me, Um, you get asked those questions. If you're ever on a desert, on an island, and out in the middle of the ocean, and you can only pick one person you'd want to be with, you know what my answer would be? A damn good swimmer. Mr. Steve Stockton. Everybody getting here.
Hey, with an introduction like that, I wish I had a better show for your guests.
There you go. That was so funny because I was sitting there thinking that, and I was trying not to laugh, but I couldn't pull it off because I knew everybody thought I was going to say you. I wouldn't mind being on an island with you. We'd get off that island. We'd be building something out of coconut.
Like Gilligan's Island. We'd build a raft.
We'd have cable, my friend. We'd have cable. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I inadvertently scheduled a premiere on Missing Persons and Mysteries for 8 o'clock. I thought I had it for 7, so I'm pulling double duty.
Are you stretched thin?
Yeah, I can handle it.
Well, mods, guys, if you want to run over there and help him back and forth, I know some of you can do that. Some of your mods over there too. Do what you got to do.
It's cool. I've got a couple in there, so.
Are you good? Are you on autopilot?
Yeah, I'm almost finished here.
You're on autopilot, or you got to be in there? Because if you need some time, I'll roll a vid.
Hey, Monica Device, how are you? Scott's Live, Ted Branston.
Welcome, Renise. Monica, how you doing? Glenn, I hope you're feeling well, honey. I can't say it enough. Sovereign Silver, Cat's Claw.
How you doing?
Vitamin C, Echinacea, Kitamide, if you need a boost. If you don't want to do the capsules, you can do the tinctures and any of those. Except for the Sovereign Silver, I will not veer. It has to be that brand, that type, for that amount.
And Missing Person Mysteries is in the chat. Who that is?
I don't know. It's a mystery. It's a mystery. Scott's Live's here. Tedder's is here. Connor's doing well. Is Connor still upside down, Ted? Everything else, what other kind of mystery is going on in here?
Ted's one of my mods over there. Sasha Bell's in there.
Does it look like it's under control over there, Ted? Are we good? It's on autopilot. You got it on cruise control, right?
Yeah. Just sitting back and letting it drive itself.
There you go. Well, I can't believe we're still talking about Hollywood scandals, Steve, but they're doing them faster than we can talk about them. I don't know. We'll never be able to keep up.
What's that?
I said all these Hollywood scandals. I said we still got more. I don't think we're ever going to run out because
we're still back in the silent film days. I think.
They're doing them faster than we can talk about it. You know what I'm saying? It was a joke.
Always something happening in Hollywood.
It's gotten. I want to say it. I almost said it, and I know better. I almost said it's gotten so you just don't. There's so much debauchery and so much BS. You just don't even want to hear it anymore. I think the only reason we want to talk about the old ones is because there's a nostalgia to it. There's a classic vintage kind of feel to it. I think it's surprise as these old letters surface or documents surface or medical examiner reports come to light, where you can get your hand, stick your fingers on them or whatever. That somebody writes a book and brings another piece of that little information that if we had it 30 years ago, but we wouldn't have been. But that's
about that. I mean, you think of scandals and stuff as being the modern thing with social media and all that, but I think they were just as bad, if not worse, back in the day. They hid it better. The studios kept it under wraps.
I don't think there's anything you can tell me that's happening today that I can't tell you happened probably 100 years ago, just the same. Yeah. Handled different.
Sex scandals, drugs, alcohol, illegitimate children.
I don't even know how far back you'd have to go to not hit that, because look, we spent episode upon episode in the Midwest, in the middle of farm country Americana, and had 238 axe murders following one train. We only followed one train. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Everybody on that train.
There's a few other trains out there.
Yeah.
We only followed one line, golly, 238, and that's why I get so upset.
Back of the car, please. It was just, that was the thing. Well, you think about that. Back then, everybody had an axe, especially out in the country.
Oh, yeah. And right there.
You had to chop firewood. Or,
sticking in a stump by the front back door.
Something needs killing down on the farm, so there's an axe there. And that way, you didn't even have to carry one with you. You knew there'd probably be one there. If you couldn't find an axe, you could use a fireplace poker
Yeah.
or a butcher knife or a rolling
But the
pin or
axe part,
iron skillet.
that's so spot on. We talked about that during the Lizzie case, and then we brought it up again during the Velisca axe murder case, and then we brought it up again. We were talking about Don't Hurt Me Pop out in New Orleans, the jazz axe murders, and then the man from the train axe murders.
And they may or may not be connected. Did we ever conclude in our minds who they were or not?
I believe, if I recall correctly, mods correct me if I'm wrong. Hey, Katie Turner, how you doing,
been
darling?
A few shows ago.
Yeah, it's been a hot minute, but I think we concluded that it's BS to go to ever say that nothing was going on. Look at how unusual it was at Lizzie Borden's house. No, there was another one while she's locked up 11 days later, almost exactly like it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then you've got the Velisca same. Yes.
We worked that case over and back.
Almost 70 years, yeah.
That man could have a college degree in Velisca axe murder.
Each class, that's for sure. He'd be the professor to go to. Because, and we had it. We had it. We gave, God bless him. 70 years he's been studying that, Steve. I think he just hit 70. Not him. 70 years he's been studying Velisca. So what did we conclude? I believe we conclude that it was inconclusive.
Yeah, that's it. That was the conclusion we reached, was we don't know.
The thing is you can't put somebody in a thing with circumstantial evidence that said he did this because it's such an unusual case. Not when there's 238 within how many years? Was it like, it was less than 5, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
5 or 8. Now I'm guessing there. I think it was 5 or 8. I can't remember within that time span that matched. That's just the ones that match the MO. There was more that didn't match the MO. See what I mean? They didn't count it in that 238 if it was like an axe and a broom handle. No. Or somebody was, pitchforked over here. Mm-hmm. It had to match the MO, and there was some specific things, like things covering the windows.
About that would be the perfect way to and there was some true crime baddie that did that where I think it's BTK, where he used a different implement of destruction every time.
Different MO, yeah, every time.
And it made it a lot harder to link.
But that was his MO. But see, the perplexing part of that, the whammy on that, Steve, is that was his MO.
Yeah. His MO was that he had
that he used a different MO each time.
There you go.
So he had an MO, and he just double backed on it. It was like a double backflip psyop. You know what I mean? Just got guys. You got it. 24/7. 24/7. You gotta be watching this stuff. But it's true that was his MO to do that. So, but that's a difficult one. That was a head scratcher. And also what bothers me too is when they say it was never solved. That's something else. You got to think about that, because here's an example. Cleveland torso killer, right, Steve? Elliot Ness, the homicide division, along with Elliot Ness's, what were they called? Not unthinkables. What were they called? Not the untouchables. The second group he had. The unknowables. The unknowables was the unknowns. The unknowns. It was the unknowns. And his little group, the unknowns, looking for the torso killer, and then everybody's saying it was never solved. I think it was solved. It was just never solved in a court of law on documentation, because the person that they were after checked himself into an insane asylum, which made him hands off to everybody else. Yeah. But, the murders did stop, and Elliot himself
the guy that was doing it,
I got my man.
I think it was that guy, and he's in the bin, so I'll stop or go somewhere else. And
you don't know. You don't know.
That was his MO.
That's why there's always going to be dirt, Steve. And as long as there's dirt, by golly, we're going to be here with our shovels ready to shovel it out.
And shine a light on it. And
shine a light on it. Here we go, right?
Something, that's for sure.
I'll tell you what, last night was a humdinger, because with Lynn, we did some darker scandals, and to find out that James Dean was so completely troubled, I had no doubt in my mind he was. But there was something in there where I was just like, he's not what they're portraying. I mean, just like Rock Hudson or anybody, Barbara Stanwyck, or anybody, Greta Garbo, anybody that was who you'd be in somebody at Maryland, being somebody else they weren't, because that's how the studio wanted them to be. I mean, you have to remember, these people,
It
for
was
the
all
most
about
part.
and it still is for the most part. And then
Yeah, yeah.
off the
And they
set,
signed the
backstage,
contract,
that's where the
more
stars
morality
went up and
contract.
let their hair down, and sometimes it got out of hand in case of
Yeah.
Patty Arbuckle. But again, who knows?
The only two people that know it, I
They
think
ain't
the reason
talking.
he was so quiet, I mean, I just, offer on the table the fact that he was so quiet is one, he was being told by his lawyers not to say a thing.
Yep.
Because that's, I showed that last night when they had that little reenactment kind of thing where he, everybody's throwing the press at him and press is throwing questions at him. And he's just like, what do you mean? Who told you that? I was never with 5 women. What is that? Oh my God. He was really appalled at what he was being accused of. Think of the times, guys. This is in the 20s. And I'm not saying people weren't like that, but they weren't like that out in public,
Yeah.
Well,
That was one reason they
you
went to
know,
San Francisco, but still.
mhm.
And I can't recall the details, but was that during Prohibition? I think it was, wasn't it? That
Yes, it was, honey.
they took
Because the
road
reason I
rage
can answer
extra.
that question is because he went up to, um, gosh, I can't recall where he was, the name of the place he was staying. I don't know if it was a boarding house or a hotel, which was basically the same thing back then. But there was enough to have a doorman or the usher, the head guy, the guy, the go get her done guy at the
Domo,
building. His name was Tom Tom, and
Major Domo.
he went up and told him he was going to need a case of liquor. Could he get it for him? You know what I mean? And
He knew
Tom
a
Tom
guy.
handled. Yep, he knew a guy, and it was Tom Tom. So
Concierge is probably his.
he was throwing a party.
He was that guy.
Yeah, and he was just throwing a party to celebrate, I can't remember exactly what a party got, or he got nominated for something, whatever, but they took everything away from him. And, again, he was in 3 trials and found innocent 3 times, and the man should have never been in 3
Yeah.
trials. I'd have to go over the trial and tell you how that happened.
Jeopardy.
I'd have to read the
And then
documentation, and
it was years before they let him back in Hollywood, and he so loved the industry that he
he had to
did
sneak.
stuff under names, and one
Yep.
of the pseudonyms that he used was "Will Be Good," and letting them know that, "Hey, I will be good. Let me back
It would
in
be,
here."
yeah, yeah. And he only got to do it for like 2 weeks, and then he died of a heart attack in his own bathroom. His wife went in and found him on the floor. I mean, he was, again, people that knew him said no way, but they wouldn't let them speak for his character. They said that they would fire them, and all the people he knew were other actors and actresses and people who worked on the set and on these films and on these film sets. So they said, well, we'll fire you and you'll lose your livelihood, and we'll blacklist you. You'll never work again. And if you don't think that can happen, I got a little piece up here that's coming about Hitchcock that'll give you a good eyeball on
The
that.
blacklist did and still does exist. It's a real thing.
Oh yeah.
Look what
If
they
somebody
did
powerful
to,
says you're not working, you're not working.
what they did to Roseanne. They killed her off her own show.
Yep. And everybody that stayed. Are you joking? And you know what? Ask her why she walked away. Her first answer is because a lot of everybody there had jobs. They had families.
Yeah.
And she expected when she walked, she expected a lot of people were going to walk with her. And she says, I wouldn't ask anybody to do that, but you'd think some of them,
Yeah.
And the ones that stay, she's done.
Yeah.
And I don't blame her, because there's it cost her a lot more than $20 found out they were assholes. But you know what I mean? Once you find that out, there's no sense in digging around,
Yep.
But yeah, so I don't think we're going to be at a loss for any dirt. Tonight we've got a couple. Now, I made a little short. I've got a nice little video to show you that's got some kind of ones that aren't really up front, and like you might not recognize the names. Like, I know you do, William Taylor and Thomas
Desmond
Innes.
Yep.
Thomas Innes, such an interesting case. Thelma Todd, a lot of people don't remember
Toddy.
Thelma Todd, but boy, she was, that was her nickname. And she was a comedian actress, and I thought it very interesting. There's a new, not really a new book out on that, and I'm looking into that book and some other ones too, because I never go to just one. I go to multiple and sources. And she was somebody close to today. She was kind of like a Mary Tyler Moore, they're saying, because she was a comedic actress. Everybody liked her. She was 29. She was probably leaning into the alcohol a little bit too much, and she was getting there. Like if if she didn't get help or stop or change her ways, it could have gone down a bad, ugly path if she hadn't died at 29. But there's a lot of stuff and controversy thrown on that case too, and that's another one that's really needs a lot of sorting. But we've got some good, looks into that. Jean Harlow is another one. Wow, that was wild last night, but I'll tell you about it after we watch a little piece tonight. And James Dean was a corker because, again, like I said, I knew he was troubled. You could see it in his eyes, and you knew that he had to be wrestling with something because all three of the movies, he only did 3 movies, and all 3 of the movies had a theme of somebody trying to hide, live their life as a human being, and also in a time where people didn't look so good on people who lived alternative lifestyles, being a homosexual or whatever, and trying to understand that. And he played that, or was in a film or play. I think the other 2 plays he did too. So it's like, gosh, how many plays and movies back in the 40s and 50s had that theme, Steve? I mean, what are the chances you're going to pull up 3 in a row?
Yeah.
So there has to be something behind it. And again, I'll say what I said last night. It's a damn shame that we always had to hide this stuff, or the whoever hid it, the person, the family, the studios, whatever, because we could have maybe got them some help, unsolicited, unprovoked advertisement there for Dunkin' Donuts coffee.
Oh, yeah. My unofficial sponsor, Dunkin'.
You ain't even got a damn munchkin out of that yet, have you, Steve?
Not
They
yet.
send you any coffee? They didn't even send you a paper straw or nothing.
And
Yeah,
just and then I tried, even there's a New England best kept secret. There's a place called Dippin' Donuts. It's local here.
Dippin' Donuts.
And
Is that like Dippin' Dots?
Better. No, Dippin' Dots is the ice cream that they bubble nitrogen through or something. No,
You know what?
Dippin'
That's
Donuts,
just,
and it has
you
kind of the
just
same
keep that-
colors. I thought it was a Dunkin' ripoff, but it's actually some of the best coffee I've
pretty
ever had.
colors.
And you can get
when you want ice cream, you want ice cream.
munchkins. Their donut holes are really big, and you can get like 25 of them for $5, I think. And
Well, that's definitely a better price, isn't it?
yeah,
How much is 25 Dunkin' Munchkins? About
$15, I think. Yeah, I think I paid $2.99 for 3 or something.
When
like
I
that.
worked
For a
there,
donut
a
hole.
dozen donuts was just over $2. I think it was $2.35.
And I remember the chicken soup, but I don't remember the chili. I don't remember them having chili.
Every day was chili. Big old beans.
Every day was chili day.
Every day was chili day, and then they'd have a different soup.
Do you remember
Yeah.
Blue Circle? They used to have those in the South. Blue
The
Circle restaurants. Blue Circle.
I don't remember
Their
that.
sign was a circle, blue, no doubt, and a cup of coffee.
Hence the name.
And then later it was Mametco Blue Circle. They had the best chili in town. It's like a diner.
Our chili wasn't bad. I don't think it had anything remotely to do with chili, but it was pretty good, whatever it was. It was more like a chili soup served up hot, with a donut, of course.
Yeah, they had those little.
I mean, who wouldn't know that those 2 things went together? You go to Dunkin' Donuts,
They had them built into the counter, the little soup heater things, and
yeah.
they just slap your bowl out and throw it at you.
You got to figure who doesn't pull up to a Dunkin' Donuts and go, you know what? I felt like chili today.
Yeah.
I
want a jelly donut.
It made perfect sense to me. They didn't even have chocolate chip cookies yet. They didn't even have munchkins yet, because I can remember I was there for like a week or so, because I can remember going to talk to my manager about uniform stuff, And hey, Aunt Edna, welcome in, sweetheart, just in time. And he came in all excited about the damn munchkins. We were just getting munchkins.
Insomnia Cookie Company. I think they're a national chain.
Who?
Insomnia Cookie Company. They're open till like 3 or 4
Do they keep you up?
Well,
put you to sleep?
That are up doing things.
They're just up and have to be hungry. Is it next to a medical marijuana distillery? Because that's smart stuff.
They have them in a lot of different locations. They've got an app and everything. That's some of the best cookies I've ever had.
Really?
We got Nicole some for her anniversary.
Had you been to the medical marijuana distillery beforehand? Because that could have something to do with it. Did you ever hear about that Girl Scout that sat out front of one of the first ones that opened up? She sold all her cookies.
That's smart.
Smart.
Is it Girl Scout cookie season? I need some Thin Mints.
I don't know. I don't think they use real Girl Scouts anymore, though, Steve. I think they outlawed that.
Yeah.
They're not the same. All right, so let's dig up some dirt. What do you think?
Let's
Some of
dig
these
it.
might surprise you. Now, the first one is probably more common knowledge, but I just wanted to mention it tonight in a short way because Judy Garland was an absolute mess. And a lot of people don't realize she died at like 46, 47.
Yeah.
And I mean, this girl, when you take a child, everybody knows child actors. I mean,
And when you see those
name
later
one.
videos of her, I think she's in
Oh,
Vegas or somewhere with the Rat Pack. She looks like death on two wheels. I'm sorry,
oh,
but she does.
and
It's
then when
horrible.
halfway before she's
Pills and
done,
alcohol,
Liza,
and
same
they'd give
thing.
her uppers so she could go out there and sing and stuff, and then give her downers so she could
Yep,
go to sleep. She was
exactly.
strung out 40 ways from Sunday on something. And
Exactly.
then
And
she
so
added
much that
alcohol
they
to
go
the mix.
through. We're looking at this magical thing, and it's just like Disney. I heard the Cinderella Castle caught on fire. Were we talking about that last week? Did we mention Cinderella Castle and Disney
I don't think so,
or anything?
but
But I heard, I don't know. I have not had that confirmed. But anybody
small
else
world.
heard that at birthdays is a small world? Can you imagine them running
I
around?
got stuck on that when I worked for Disney in Florida. I'd go in there on my day off and
It's a
ride the
nightmare.
rides and stuff. I always go to the Haunted Mansion, but I'd taken some Dayquil and that
Oh
day,
no.
and I got stuck on It's a Small World, and I sat there for like over an hour in one of those little boats, and then I don't want to get you a copy claim, but it was as dreadful as it sounds. And then finally, they sent a guy. They turned all the lights on, which like killed the magic of it anyway. And then they finally sent a guy around, and he let us out, and we had to jump over a little thing and walk out through the back.
The zoo have peanut butter, Scott's. Oh, those peanut. They don't. Do they have
Insomnia
the peanut
Cookie
butter cookies?
Company, they do have peanut butter cookies, and they're exceptional.
Are you
Oatmeal
asking about the
raisin,
Insomnia Company or
the
the Girl
white
Scout? Because
chocolate
Girl Scouts had one.
macadamia. I think they have.
We're in a
What is
peanut.
there?
They're not the ones that
They
have
have
the
some kind of peanut butter cookies.
the peanut shaped ones with the elephant on it. That's not them, is it? Those are
No.
Nutter Butters.
Do they have an elephant on them? I never
Those
noticed
Nutter
that.
Butters.
I like Nutter Butters.
They're in the shape of a peanut. They probably don't taste the same anymore. And speaking of peanuts, Steve, I've got a question that I'll probably never get the answer to. What the hell's up with circus peanuts? First of all, what do they have to do with circus? Second of all, it looks like a peanut, but it's orange, and it tastes like a banana.
Yeah, that's a strange.
Made out of a marshmallow.
Strange thing there. And I know that it's a love-hate thing. People either love them or they hate them. I'll eat them. I don't care, but it's not my favorite.
I can't eat them anymore until I understand what the hell they are.
What
I've eaten them before, but I remember biting into one and actually thinking about it. Why the hell is this peanut orange?
And they sold those. Let's see.
I don't know where they came from or what the hell they have to do with the circus.
Probably knows. Let's see if I can Google it quicker than he can answer.
What's he got up here? He's saying there was always Girl Scout mothers who sold the cookies. Look.
Let's see what Wikipedia says. Circus
Hope
peanuts.
You're doing well, Aunt Edna.
Are
Everybody
American.
Send good energy. While you're looking, we're going to send Aunt Edna and anybody else who needs it tonight. Good energy.
Prayers, love and light to Aunt Edna. Circus peanuts are American peanut-shaped marshmallow candy. They date to the 19th century, where they were one of a large variety of unwrapped penny candy sold in retail outlets such as 5 and dime stores. Looking for the origin here. Don't see the origin. Now they also, over the years, confectioners have also offered them in yellow, pink, and white. So that's even stranger.
It is, and that just really bothers me. That's got me all messed up. Now I can't try to visualize that.
They're made out of sugar, corn syrup, gelatin, pectin, soy protein, food coloring, and artificial flavor.
It's good. It's good for you.
Yeah, doesn't really give me anything on the actual origins of it here.
All right, what do we got down here?
There you go.
Giant marshmallow peanut.
Our findings were inconclusive.
Ted's got somebody chewing on his ankle, and there's a long tongue involved. There's reindeers made out of Nutter Butter cookies. I'm not sure if that's a cryptid, Steve, or just an unknown creature, unknown origins. I don't know.
Cookie deer.
Somebody's on uppers as a child. Who's the mother? Judy or Liza or
Judy was Liza's mother, right?
Yeah. Well,
Did they have a brother that was in there too, or is it just was Liza an only child? I may be thinking of
you might
somebody
be
else.
thinking Eliza.
It's inconclusive.
It is
I'm going to be using that for a while.
I'm gonna roll this bean footage, Steve.
Yeah,
Are you
roll
looking
that
up
beautiful
something?
bean footage.
Were you showing us pictures of cookies or something?
No, I was going to look
We're
about
good.
Liza Minnelli if she had any siblings.
Oh, I don't know. Did she have any? Said Judy Garland, her mother did.
Let's see.
Yeah. Oh, did she? Okay. I didn't know. Well, I figured,
She is
she's in the
still
business.
alive. Hold on there, Liza. Don't let us. 77 years old.
She's still going.
Yeah. Let's see.
She'll probably knock on my door.
Her parents were Judy Garland
Oh
and
gosh,
Vincent Minnelli.
Steve, I hope we didn't do something.
Yeah, I hope we didn't just
Everybody stop
knock
talking
her out
about
of the
it.
game.
Go back
I
to the
loved
Peanuts.
her in Cabaret back
Cabaret.
in the
Yeah, that was
70s.
her. That was her stranglehold right there.
Yeah, if she had
without
any
a doubt.
children, it doesn't. Or if she had any
Sibling.
siblings, it doesn't say here.
Didn't she adopt one? A little blonde-headed
Lorna, somebody.
a
Judy
little
had 3 children, including Liza and Lorna. Lorna
yeah.
Love.
Wasn't there a boy? Lorna Loved. Okay, yeah, that's right. But wasn't there some blonde-headed little boy she used to have at the Christmas season? She used to push him out of the back from beyond the backstage and push him up front to stand around the piano and sing, Silent Night or something.
It just says 3, including Liza Minnelli and Lorna Loved, but it doesn't say who the third one was. So
maybe it's a ghost. I don't know. I swear I see a little boy in some kind of red velvet outfit.
That sounds familiar. Was that Andy Williams? I don't know. There was somebody.
Maybe I'm thinking of David Bowie as a child standing around Bing Crosby's piano. Yeah.
Was that not the most surreal moment ever?
I loved every minute of it. I never get tired of seeing that. I think that was a great thing for them to come together. And then, all that cheeky stuff where they're acting like they don't know who each other, is. Like, I'm just happen to be knocking on this door. I'm just the neighbor, I mean, they used to do stuff like that all the time. It was all right, those little vaudeville-ish kind of skits, You know who was real good at those?
Like that. Who's that?
Bob Newhart.
Yeah.
Funny guy. Oh gosh, when he used to do stand up, he does the telephone thing, and he was doing stand. Oh gosh,
funny guy. I had some old vinyl albums of him way back in the day.
He could get kind of blue too.
Of course, it was the Bob Newhart show, and then they had Newhart, where he was a writer from New York that moved to I think it was Vermont or somewhere.
Suzanne Pleshette. Wasn't she his wife?
That was in the Bob Newhart show. And if you've never seen the final episode of Newhart, go watch it. It's self-referential back to the Bob Newhart show. I won't spoil it for you, but it's quite the best ending of any show ever.
Really? Yeah. I liked Frasier too. I thought they had really excellent writers on Frasier. I mean, of course, nothing matches the writers of MASH.
I'm not real thrilled with the new Frasier. I wish they got the original Freddie back.
5 minutes. I was off.
Don't have Niles, and of course, Marty's dead. So.
Different writers.
Yeah, but the original Frasier, that's one of our favorites. I've got all those episodes, and we watch that a lot of nights during dinner.
One of my favorite ones when he was mad, the guy above him had a giant American flag, and he was standing on the porch. He said, "I feel like I'm living in a big clown's pocket." I mean, you'd really laugh till you could just roll. I'm telling you, it was something. But you got to have good writers. It's like in a band.
It's the writers.
It's a band.
And that was the thing about Frasier. You didn't even think that, wow, somebody wrote this and they're really good. It seems so natural.
West Wing was like that too.
And they knew the characters so well, they became those characters.
Aaron Sorkin can put out a show. There's 3 of them that were darn good. West Wing was one of them. And I don't know what he's doing now. Everybody's tied up in knots, went batshit crazy. So, but I just look at people, if I really enjoyed their music before and they started doing stuff that just makes me not want to listen, whatever, I just pretend they're dead. And then I just figured that, well, isn't it a shame we're gone? But we have this. And that's just how I deal with stuff. They're no longer alive.
Scott's Life found some more info on the Circus Peanut.
Oh, what you got? Oh gosh, okay.
1906.
Where do I start? 1906.
Only banana flavor is offered year-round, but they offer vanilla and cherry seasonally. He says,
but
wait, there's more. Now how much you should pay?
Okay. Is there more down here?
In the 1800s, Circus Peanuts were only sold in the spring. I guess they would melt. uh, or in the winter they were too hard to chew. Until polyethylene film was created in the 1940s, and the candy was able to be sold all 12 months.
Well, I'm glad they sorted that out, Steve.
Hey, Rockin' Robin Bird RB, good to see you.
The polyurethane film. My goodness. Uh-oh, what's this? YouTube band. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's my new Rumble channel. So go if you haven't subscribed to it, please do. I mean, just download the app.
How's that going over there? I've been looking at Rumble,
good.
and there's another one called Rabble.
I'm going to Rumble because I know from watching it for the past couple of years, it's been open that you could pretty much no censorship. And I figured the year we got coming up, I might be able to keep my mouth shut. So I better tally on over. I know me. I see me do
options. You know you pretty well, don't you?
I know me pretty well. See me do it. And it's just a matter of time. So, figure to have that. And then people have options, So there we go. And it never hurts to have some backup,
Yeah. I was like, I put all my audio from all my channels on Spreaker. And then I'm looking at some other options just in case. You never know.
Yeah. Make your choices.
One day this place might be like MySpace.
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I mean, I've done the radio, I've done the networks, I've done the other stuff. I'm just like
speaking of radio,
doing what I'm doing. Happy doing what I'm doing. Of
course, my radio slot is 9 p.m. on Sundays. Just so happened that it coincided with your show last night. Lynn Monet did such a good job on there as my guest.
Fantastic.
And she was here with you last night. Probably didn't get to listen to it, but
oh shoot,
get a chance.
She'll be able to get a link soon, won't she?
Yeah, they put it behind a paywall. It airs live on Sunday nights from 9 to 11, and then it sits behind a paywall for a couple of weeks, and then it goes out to iHeartRadio and all those places. But
Sarah, hey Sarah,
Sarah Claire, how you doing? I got those funny videos you sent me on Facebook. I just haven't
thank
had time
you so
to
much.
Comment yet.
Yep.
But yeah.
Yeah. It's I know me. I've known me all my life.
Wait till you see what I got coming up. I got another channel in the works.
Yep. Another one. Holy mackerel. Eventually you look like that guy remember that guy used to come on the Merv Griffin or the Mike Douglas show and he had the sticks with the plates on it.
Yeah.
He had all them
that's me right now.
Had one on his forehead, one on his chin, his nose. He's got them.
But got something good coming up.
We got a big
announcement in about another month, so stick around for that one.
Oh my goodness!
Gonna break the internet.
Steve,
really,
just we might. Well, let's just shoot for it, Steve. Whether we accomplish it or not, we'd always try again. Let's see if we can break it. That'll be awesome. All right, so let's do the video. Here we go. I got to do a little reading because just in case somebody's like hanging clothes or cooking dinner, you can't read it. I'm gonna try to read it. But sometimes I do them a little fast. I have to slow them down. Huh?
Let me know if you need me to read something too.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. We'll flip flop. Okay, let me start here with Judy Garland. Judy, wait, what did I do? Oh, here we go, folks. All right, here we go. Judy Garland, Troubles in Oz. In 1935, as a young teen, Judy Garland's talent was overshadowed by the studio's dissatisfaction with her looks. I can't even imagine. Verbally tortured and worked her with marathon shooting hours, her life was a harrowing tale of exploitation and despair. From relentless criticisms about her appearance to a cocktail of pills meant, this is what Steve was saying, cocktail of pills meant to control her weight and keep her awake. Can you imagine a 13-year-old kid? Fed chicken broth and told to smoke to keep her figure. This set the stage for a lifetime of substance abuse and personal struggle. Garland married at 19, only to be ordered back to work the very next day. She had 24 hours for her honeymoon. Just all little things. Arranged abortions, constant control of her use of amphetamines deepened the studio, just isolated her away. So they isolated her away and kept her away from friends and family, and she got worse and worse and worse. 1969, she succumbed to the barbiturate overdose at the age of 47. All that talent, you know what I mean? I don't know why they do this, Steve. Marking the end of the troubled journey down the yellow brick road. That was Seaview in St. Louis. Huh?
Gone too soon.
Oh, yeah. I mean, and there she is more towards the end. And I mean, she did so many things. I remember when she did Stars Born, she did, I remember for all the variety
In
stuff.
St.
She was
Louis,
everywhere.
she
Yeah.
was multi-talented.
Yeah. How she lasted this long, I
Apart.
have no idea. 47.
And she was like what, 16 or something when she did Wizard of Oz?
13.
13. Holy cow.
Yeah. 13. And they just badgered her to no end. And I mean, the whole time they're working her, 12, 13, 14-hour days, and then giving her something to knock her out, waking her up in the morning, getting her to, makeup, hair, all this other stuff, chicken broth, cigarettes, and amphetamines. That's what she lived on at 13. I mean, can you imagine? It's awful. Hey, Ghost Lord. Hey, Cat.
Cathita, how you doing there, Ghost Lord?
Jean Harlow found herself thrust into a scandal that ripped through the very heart of Hollywood. She was something. Her marriage to MGM studio executive Paul Byrne took a tragic turn when Byrne was discovered lifeless. A fatal gunshot wound accompanied by a cryptic suicide note. The studio wasted no time branding it as a suicide. They didn't even look into it, they just covered it up. But the lingering whispers of murder refused to fade away, leaving behind an air of unsettling uncertainty in a town where secrets were plentiful as the stars in the sky. Look at this guy, though, Steve. Now, last night we had a little hand in, I wanted to stop it for a second and show you this. We had a little hand in, a little extra information on this too. Apparently, he had a hard time keeping her happy, and he was, if you know what I mean, and he had like they were saying he had a low self-esteem, and after one of these try and fails, let's put it that way, that's when he supposedly went in and committed suicide. The thing was covered up, and so many things back and forth, and the way it wasn't dug in told you it was something else, very much like the Superman George Reeves case and so many others that the studios first called, they fix it up, they decide which way the story is going to go. Here's a suicide note, throw it in here. Nobody really knows. But to add, insult to injury, she of course, got past this, and her real love was Powell. Powell was married, didn't want to get married, and, she wanted to marry him. She got pregnant by him, and she knew she'd lose him if he found out about that. Like, she was trying to trap him. So she went and had an abortion, and after that, she couldn't have any more. And that was just, she just, so sad. You look at the glitz and glamour and the shine and the sparkle and the talent and the cars and the trips and the BS, and not one of them is happy. And if they're happy, you don't hear about them. You know what I mean? Like, I think Denzel's probably happy, but you don't ever hear him caught up in all these scandal things. He's just, he just keeps trudging on, but what a trip. And he's something. Yep. So that's that one. And this is her and Powell. And I think that was just as much as a scandal as anything else, because, there's one picture I'm trying to get where she that's who she really wanted to be with. And you know what? I like William Powell. You want to do this one, Steve?
Okay. 1940s and 50s, film noir Lana Turner emerged as an unforgettable film fatale.
Wasn't she something? They're all so pretty, In
1950s, Turner found herself entangled with Johnny Stompanato, with connections to the mob and to Mickey Cohen.
And there's Mickey right there.
And I think he had mob connections too. They all did.
Uh-huh.
Turner discovered his criminal associations. She attempted to sever ties, triggering a tumultuous year of physical and emotional abuse.
Yep. And to add on to that, this is Stompanato. So basically, she's a star. He wants to get next to her. Now, there was a whole lot, like Steve said, that was kind of going on. She had other friends too, that were involved in the life, but she didn't know that he was tied up in that. He kind of lied to her coming in. He was extremely possessive, aggressive, um, abusive verbally and physically. I mean, this guy would keep this woman locked up in a room and beat her all night long. And then when he left in the morning, he'd reach over, kiss her on the cheek, and leave. And that kept her good for like 3 or 4 months because she was scared to death of him. And the tumultuous year of physical and emotional abuse, that's what I'm talking about. It's horrible. And she couldn't get away from him. Okay, Steve, next one. So it's just, it's easy to forget that part. You know what I mean?
Turner's teenage daughter, Cheryl, becomes her mother's unexpected hero in a desperate bid to protect Lana.
Okay. And now I'm going to tell the story like we usually hear it. And then I'm going to add something to it when we're done, because I'm sure Steve can too. But this is her. And this is her at about, I want to say 16, 17. She might be 15 here, but I believe she was more like 13 when this actually happened.
Cheryl stabs and kills the mobster. Legal proceedings deemed the killing justifiable, but the scandal that erupted was nothing short of cinematic in 1958.
Now, Lana, they both got up and testified, the whole shebang.
The jury's verdicts of justifiable homicide did little to quell the storm of rumors that ensued.
Exactly.
And accusations that Turner orchestrated the demise and coerced her daughter into shouldering the blame. The plot thickens.
Yes, it does. But there's a bit more
to the story.
Yeah. There she is. I think she had a lot of grace. I mean, you wonder what, you imagine what she's going through, you know what I mean? So I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. As you saw that book right there, it's A Murder in Hollywood, The Untold Story of Tinseltown's Most Shocking Crime by Casey Sherman. Now, I'm digging into this case too, and I really like this guy's take on it. Again, this is one of those books that was written, so long after the fact, but here's the deal. The daughter's still alive. She's in an assisted living right now. And again, letters get released, documents get released, things get uncovered, that kind of thing. And the word from last night, thank you so much, whoever put that in, it was microfiche. I couldn't remember the name of the thing where you go to the library and you look up the old newspapers. Microfiche. I always remembered it as it had fish in it.
Yeah,
but
microfiche, but I think
fish is fish or fish. Yeah,
it was similar to microfilm, which was just little things, but the fish was
there. You go.
And you sit there and you roll, and
and it goes by.
Tennessee had some automatic ones, and you could, but those get taken up real fast. Otherwise, you
get to see pages of newspapers.
Quick,
incredible.
You had to spin through it a lot.
I mean, that's before we had internet. I mean, back then it was like pretty incredible. It still is. We got to dig through stuff.
Analog Google.
Mm-hmm. But this guy's pulled up a lot of stuff too on it, and it snaps in with what I had heard, from obscure sources along the way. But basically, this is what I believe happened, and so does he. And again, this is by her lawyer finally given up, information, and, Lana's lawyer. So basically what happened is this guy's beating her senseless. It was something that went down all the time. Like Farrah Fawcett in The Burning Bed. If anybody remembers that 70s show, movie. So anyway, it's got to the point where she's trying to, produce her own stuff and be involved in the background of a film. She's going to fly out of the country. He's mad at her because he thinks he can write. He thinks he can direct. He thinks he can write screenplays. And she doesn't want anything to do with any of his crazy ideas. She just wants done with this guy, but she can't get rid of him. She goes somewhere and he shows up. She goes somewhere else and he shows up. If she has an opening for something, he's there just to stare her down and give her a hard time. So she goes out of the country. She says she didn't want him to go. She shows up at the hotel room. This is her big time to be behind the scenes and handle it like a business person. And he's there and he ruins it. And it's horrible. And things just escalate after that. When she gets back from that, she knew she was going to pay. And she got home, she puts the key in the door, goes into her bedroom, and he's sitting there with that dreadful thing you see in the old film noirs where somebody's smoking a cigarette in the chair in the dark room. And that was what happened. And he beat her all night long. He told her if she ever pulled that again, he would scar her and mar and cut her face and she would never work again. He had her so scared. And the thing is she had a feeling he was going to go off the hinge. And a couple of days before that, she had bought some things for the kitchen and a large steak knife. And they keep saying a large steak knife. To me, a steak knife is only so big. They're using those words. So I would imagine it was probably like a French knife or a French chef knife or something. But again, I haven't seen the pictures.
I think a big butcher
I'm digging.
Knife, because a steak knife is just a little
it's just a little bitty thing. Yeah. So I don't understand why they would say that.
Maybe it was,
Yeah. So I want to see the pictures. I want to see the pictures of this thing. But anyway, she did that. So her lawyer finds out. That's the first person she calls when this all goes down. And she says, look, I've stabbed him. He was going to beat me again. I'm tired of him beating me. He's going to kill me. It's self-defense. And he says, we'll never be able to pull that off. And Cohen isn't going to go for it. And they go in and they wake up the daughter. And he says, if she did it to save you, I can make that work in court. I can sell that in court. And they sat up, they worked it out. And that's what they did. And that little girl at 13 years old, sat on that courtroom and held it together, not knowing whether or not it was going to work and she was going to go to jail for murder. You see what I'm saying? But they did it. And I think it probably went the way it did, but it didn't end there. Now she's running for her life because Mickey Cohen he's not buying the story. And he's got his guys looking for her with jars of acid because they're going to throw it on her face. So don't think if you hear this, case, there's a lot more to it. And I think it's horrific, Steve. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. And I did find a picture of the steak knife, but there's not any scale. I don't know if you can see this.
Let me get you up bigger.
Let
me see if I can get you up bigger. Hold on.
There's a glare on it. It is fairly large for a steak knife, but
yeah, it doesn't seem, but again,
you can't, there's no scale. You don't know.
That was the thing that took the lawyer where he was just, there's no way I can sell that, because they're going to say you bought the knife. It was premeditated. He beat you in, I forget where it was, somewhere in Europe.
It says it was an 8-inch knife.
Okay. That's pretty large for a steak knife.
Yeah. That's good size.
But again, maybe steaks were bigger back then too, Steve. We don't know.
Hollywood. Of course they had big steaks.
We don't know, do we? But anyway, that's what I believe went down. And in the future, I'm going to do an episode on it and we'll see. I'm going to dig a little bit more, see what I come up with. But that's where I'm at right now. Sometimes we can't come to a conclusion. All we can do is pull out the facts and look at them and go, we just don't have enough pieces to the puzzle to get a good picture. We can guess.
Inconclusive.
Yep. There it is. But what a pretty lady. And, and I don't like the way he's looking at her daughter. And I'm betting you there's more going on there too. This one blows my mind. You can have this one. I can't even talk about this jerk. And I like him so much.
Hitchcock was a man of peculiarities.
Boy, if that's his wife. 45 years you're married.
There, I know a little bit about it.
Yeah, he's pretty twisted old son of a gun. All
Tales of Hitchcock's controlling nature emerged with stars like Grace Kelly and Janet Leigh.
Yeah, she put up with a lot of stuff from him during Psycho. Yeah. I mean, you can hear her story. She just handled it a little better. She was in a better situation, I think, than Tippy. Tippy got the full brunt. Hang on, let it run through. I messed up. There we go.
Tippi Hedren found herself at the center of Hitchcock's obsession. He handpicked the unknown actress to star in The Birds.
Yep. And he was coming off a lot of hype.
If you've never seen The Birds, that is a good movie.
I just watched it not too long ago. Yep. And they put her through hell.
It scared the bejesus out of me, but it's still frightening. Hedren alleges that the director ordered other cast members not to socialize with her or touch her and grew petulant if he saw her talking to other men.
Mhm. That was Jessica Tandy, wasn't it? That played
I think
the
it
supporting
was.
actress role in that. It's hard to tell because her hair was just so, but I think it was
Yeah.
Jessica Tandy, wasn't it? There you go.
He once threw himself on top of her and tried to kiss her while they were traveling in his limousine.
And a lot more times too. I just picked one. Yeah. There's a lot of other times you go to her biography. Sorry, I doubled it up there.
The next day on set, while filming the famous phone booth scene in which Hedren's character is attacked by birds.
That was pretty rough.
What happened?
It's coming.
One of the
That's a
mechanical
great
crows broke the supposedly shatterproof glass, shards of which hit her in the face.
That's a great picture of her, isn't it? Look at that
That is.
picture. I think that's my favorite.
Hitchcock refused to allow her to take work with other directors. This, combined with the studio's reluctance to antagonize Hitchcock, meant her career never recovered. Sad.
It
She's
is.
a good actress.
Yeah. Yeah. And she sure put her all in this. I know she left some skin on the field. That's for sure. You know what I mean? Those birds tore her up. Tell you some more he did here. He sent her a dead rat in a box. He had a secret door between his office and her dressing room. And she found that. She found some other stuff like holes in the wall, like creepy stuff like that. A couple of times he jumped her in the dressing room and she tried to kiss her. You know, the limousine wasn't the only thing. I mentioned that one because what would happen is he'd try something like that, and if she didn't accept his advances, he would punish her the next day on the set, make her reshoot something over and over and over again. The scene in the bedroom, this is what happened in the scene in the bedroom in the movie. She's in, I forget what happens exactly in the movie. I know she winds up in this guy's house who was a real lame duck, if you ask me, the guy in this. I mean, there wasn't much to that character. But anyway, she's in their house and the crows get in and they're attacking her. And originally what was supposed to happen, it was supposed to be mechanical birds on, attacking her on these like poles, and they were just going to cut the poles out and shoot different ways. And Hitchcock was really famous for shooting in different directions to get a feel. And they were going to do with that. But after he jumped her in the limousine and she pushed him off, I believe that was the day she called him a fat pig. Everything went downhill after that. You had to use real birds, and they put real birds on rubber bands. Now, this pisses me off on multiple levels, Steve. You know, and this is why you see this thing at the end of these movies that say, you know, PETA and everybody else has made sure that no horses were harmed, no dogs were harmed, no butterflies were harmed, because they did some things to animals, you know.
Yeah.
And they were pecking at her the whole time. And, you know, that scene where she's got this fine little tweed, you know, 3-piece suit on, and she's got all these holes ripped in it, you know. Oh gosh. I mean, this is something else. But now when you watch that movie, you'll know that he did this to her all the way through. And people would, after the movie, she got an award, and he wouldn't let her off the set to go and get it. He did other things where she couldn't go and sign up to be nominated. So they wanted a nominator for the birds, and he wouldn't allow it. I mean, just different things like this. He really ruined her career. Directors and people call up and say, hey, we'd love to get her for the next shoot, you know, in the next year or whatever. And he'd say she wasn't available, and nobody wanted to piss off Hitchcock because he was vindictive. So he basically ruined her career. And it lasted quite a long time. Absolutely unnecessary. But that's what these people with power do. And I think the only reason that he didn't get away with Janet Leigh, she had a little bit more of a footing under it, and she didn't take any crap. You know what I mean? Yeah. So there you go. This one's sad. I didn't know this. I knew I could just imagine what this kid went through, but take a gander at this. I think this is going to surprise you a little bit. I want to say early 30s. I think the date's in here. 1932, Steve. Shirley Temple played a prostitute in 1932. Temple began her Hollywood career at the age of 3. By 4, I think it's coming up here. Look at what they're wearing. And by 4, she was in that Baby Burlesque. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
At 4, she played a prostitute sent to entertain a senator. She was draped in pearls and wearing a small bra. Temple is portrayed as enticing the senator with a series of seductive moves. Can you believe this? 4. Can you imagine taking your daughter in there to do this? I can't even.
I'm assuming this was in pre-code Hollywood.
1930. Well, when was code? I don't know when the code was. 32, 34.
I have to look. But
Yep,
I still don't see how they made this.
I don't either. In another short called War Babies, now I think I remember hearing about this one. War Babies, Temple again plays a prostitute trying to seduce men in the army, played by boys dancing seductively. It just looks so sick now. I probably watched this as a kid and didn't think anything of it. You know what I mean? Because I was a kid.
They began rigidly enforcing the MPAA Motion Picture Association of America Code in 1934. So
she came in under it. Maybe that's why they only did 2.
That's probably why they came up with the code for stuff like that.
Oh gosh,
And
yeah, they probably should
was,
just get a little outrageous.
Will H. Hayes, that's why it's known as the Hayes Code, says here. He was the president of the MPPDA, which was a forerunner of the MPAA. And they decided to go with self-censorship rather than let the government censor.
Mm-hmm. Well, somebody needed to censor this. So she was moving seductively and had all this stuff and exchanging kisses for lollipops and referring to herself as expensive at 4. So this guy that you just saw right here, he was the one directing the whole thing. This son of a gun. He looks trustworthy. I'd leave my 4-year-old little girl with this guy, wouldn't you?
What could go wrong?
So I didn't even put his name in here because I didn't think he needed to be mentioned, but he's the one that was in charge of it. He had 2 black wooden boxes, okay? And, like plywood boxes. And in there would be a big block of ice. And it was one on stage right, one on stage left. And if the kids misbehaved, he'd lock them in the box. And you could either stand in the cold, damp air until you were good, or you could sit on the block of ice and chill out. That's what he did. And the parents allowed him to do it. And most of these parents of these kid actors took all their money. I can't tell you how many stories like that. Spanky, a bunch of them. Alfalfa, probably Darla too, probably Pete. Isn't it terrible?
Took Petey's dog food.
Yeah. Okay, so this one I put in for Aunt Edna and Lindsay and, for all the women out there. I wanted to show you what happens if you do it right. So if you want to catch this one, Steve, I love it.
I'll
stop it for you. Yep.
When the mere whiff of marijuana was enough to tarnish a Hollywood career. It's 1948, and Robert Mitchum, star of classics like Cape Fear and The Night of the Hunter, finds himself at the center of a scandal that would make headlines. In an era where marijuana was branded as a gateway drug, the authorities were on a mission to make an example, and Mitchum became their unwitting target.
That's a house he got pinched at. That's the chick he got pinched with the whole group. Layla Leeds was her name.
Yeah,
that's her.
This drama unfolds at the residence of actress Layla Leeds, where Mitchum, along with a group of friends, is caught puffing on a joint. Mitchum ended up serving 2 months on a prison farm with probation. One might think this would be a career ender, but here's the twist. The public's reaction was surprisingly indifferent.
And that's him actually at the farm. Yeah, ain't that some shit?
It didn't deter Mitchum's fans, and he seamlessly continued his acting journey, making his mark on Hollywood until his passing in 1997.
There it is. So I'll tell you right now, take it from old cool Robert Mitchum.
right there.
If you're going to have a scandal, lean into it like a torpedo and just be a
I'll
man
own
about it,
that
baby.
stuff. Yeah, I did it. What you gonna do about it?
Yeah. He just, anybody here that just leaned into it and went, yeah, that's right, I did it, or whatever. There was a lot of them like that, and they didn't let the studio or the studio, whatever the power the studio had to dangle over them, they just like, okay, fine, and my contract, and they might have got sued for breach of contract or whatever, or they had to sue back, but they leaned into it and they owned up to it. They went, yeah, he was the first one to say it's mine, and everybody in that group said so. And the only reason that Layla got taken with him is because it was her house, and the cops have been watching her house for a while, and they waited. Everybody went in there, and that's when they pinched him, and he stood up for it. And he also said, I met some of the nicest people in that jail than I've ever met in my entire life. More real than anybody I've ever met out here in Hollywood, I'll tell you that.
And he said that he used some of those characters that he met in jail to we use that information or that experience to portray some of these guys in films, that he would take little bits and pieces of their persona.
100%. But I'll tell you what, they all had a story, and it's so. I mean, there's your flash in the pan right there. I mean, even her, even Lauren. I mean, her and Bogey and all that stuff. But she was one that wouldn't take any crap. I'd much rather have somebody like that. She was a mess. But I'd much rather have somebody like that than all these people going behind the scenes. I mean, you hear that about like Earl Flynn and the way he was. And, just
his book, My Wicked, Wicked Ways. And that's just the stuff he'll admit to. You can imagine what went unsaid in there. That's a good read.
Golly, I mean, that thing with Temple gets me. I'm like, she's 4 years old. What parent would take a little girl like that in there and, leave her with that man? And
then the people that made those movies, who were those movies made?
Even all the Little Rascals and stuff. And even though that they were on, I know from digging around a lot of different the sets, and they would say like, over on my studio lot, things were handled this way, and people were much happier here than they were over here on the Universal lot or whatever. You'll hear stuff like that. And that lot that they recorded Little Rascals, and I believe the who was the with the big hats? Laurel and Hardy.
Yeah.
Laurel and Hardy, they filmed there and stuff like that. Even though that lot was handled a lot kinder and a lot nicer, the kids in Little Rascals all still got screwed. And if you ever notice, they all shared clothes, and like one day one kid would be wearing the boots and the big sweater, and the next time you'd see him, there was no money. And half of the kids that did get money, the parents took it and gambled it or did whatever. I mean, so many sad stories like that. And also, that time really started a lot of things. Like Steve said, you got your censorship was kicking in around 34, and probably some of those child labor laws and things like that started to come into scene, it as well as, but the debauchery was just off the chain.
Yeah.
Casting Couch and all that stuff. Oh my God.
Hal Roach directed those, and he also did.
Thank you, Ted.
I think, didn't he do some of Charlie Chaplin's films too? I believe.
It's possible. I know Chaplin started his own film, but there's another one, debauchery.
Yeah,
Are you watching this
Artists. That's how United Artists came about. That was Charlie Chaplin and who was it? Rebecca Sunnybrook Farm. I can't think of her name.
I don't know. We'll have to look to chat for that one. But thank you so much, Ted, for Funny Honey and Catnip. I appreciate it, sweetie. Thank you guys for all your support, your kindness last night, and everything else. And for everybody going in and commenting on the video once it's loaded up to YouTube. Thank you so much. I try to get in there and answer everyone and put a comment on. Even when I'm at work, I do it. I appreciate it so much, because those are the things that get you through. Might get us to that other person that needs to be here and wants to be a part of this and would benefit from being here. And I just love that. The more you put out there in the universe, the more the universe can do with it. Yep. Right, Steve?
That's right. And United Artists founders were D.W. Griffith.
Okay.
Douglas Fairbanks. Mary Pickford was who I was trying to think of.
Okay, yes.
And
Mary
Charlie
Pickford.
Chaplin. They didn't like the way they were getting treated, so they made their own studio.
Oh, you watched a Hammer movie last night, Sarah Claire, or did you watch the Kenneth Anger Do you remember that name, Steve? Kenneth
Yeah,
Anger.
Hollywood Babylon. That's a
Yes,
great
that's what we
book.
were watching last night. Here.
Okay.
We were
And
watching,
there's
we
another
took
book
clips.
from way back in the day called Too Young to Die that had a lot of the
Yes.
scandals
Yep.
and stuff in there.
Yep.
But
We
Kenneth
watched a
Anger's
little bit of
Hollywood
him.
Babylon, that's
Yep.
just an incredible book.
Yep. That's what we were watching, little
The book
snippets of that
itself
last
caused
night.
a scandal when it came out because it
It's
reveals so
true.
many scandals.
Yep. That's the one who dug really deep into Dean, going to the S&M clubs and having cigarettes put out on his chest. And I wondered why they were saying that in the ME reports. You know, I mean, I know it sounds weird to say, you know, I'm reading medical
The
examiner
one that
reports
you
and
played
stuff,
last
but
night, I didn't
I'm
get
not.
to watch it, sadly. But is that the one where they're actually with Kenneth Anger driving around Hollywood and he's pointing
Yes.
out? Oh, okay,
In a
that's
hearse.
I love that. Yeah.
In a hearse. And they're talking about James Dean being called a human ashtray because he was so troubled that this is, you know, he'd go and they put cigarettes on him, and the mortician couldn't understand why his chest looked like it did. And then I was going back trying to dig, you know, so I brought all that up last night. It's a little bit, you know, the whole point being, if they can pull off something like that and cover that up for so long and nobody ever hear it, except just little whispers here and there, what else are they covering up?
Yeah.
Question everything. Believe nothing. Half of what you know, nothing what you hear and half of what you see. Right? All right.
And
I got
with
another one. I'm going to get
AI,
some
you
hot
can't
water.
trust anything now. So.
Yeah. Yep. An eye for an eye, and circus peanuts taste like bananas. Go figure. So I got another one. I'm going to pop this on and run and get some hot water, but I'll be right back because I get some more tea. Does Mulder need to go smoke a cigarette or go have some coffee or get a donut?
Break. I need to
All right.
return my coffee to the earth.
So this is what, yeah, this is a snippets from the documentary that we watched a little bit last week, the one with Lauren Bacall hosting. It's really good. And this one is going to have a couple that you may not have heard of. It's going to have a little bit of Thomas Innes. You'll probably remember the case more than you remember him. I know that sounds sad, but again, very deep. And a little bit about Thelma Todd. We saw a little bit about Thelma last night, and then I got a little bit more Thelma because again, there's another new book out, and people again are talking. And when you do that 40, 50 years, 60 years, things start coming up because then you figure, you know, their kids grew up, grandkids got it. What's in these boxes? We don't want this crap. It winds up in a thrift store, a museum, whatever. And, you know, it starts coming out. So it's crazy, but more than one case has been busted like that. So here we go. And I'm going to go get some hot water.
I'll be right back as well.
Be right back.
First trial, one of Paramount's leading directors, William Desmond Taylor, was found murdered. On the morning of February 2nd, 1922, police responded to a call on Alvarado Street at a Westlake Park bungalow. It was the home of director William Desmond Taylor. At the time, no one knew that this would end up as one of Hollywood's longest cover-ups, one lasting for over 64 years. Academy Award-winning art director George Hopkins, one of Taylor's best friends, arrived at the crime scene soon after the murder occurred.
And so I drove to Alvarado as quickly as I could. I saw Taylor lying on the floor. Charlie Hyden, who was the production manager at Lasky's at that time, he had a basket in his hand. He was full of letters and stuff. He gave this basket of stuff to me to get to Taylor's office at Lasky's and see that these things are locked up and that no one goes near them.
The only peculiar thing was that there were upwards to 11 different people at his bungalow when the police arrived. Virtually the cast and crew of Taylor's last film was ransacking through his belongings. Mabel Normand, a great film comedian, enormous power in Hollywood that had started with a Keystone Cop, was said to be ransacking through Taylor's shelves. Two Paramount executives were said to be kneeling by the fireplace, burning papers. Downstairs, the other police officer had his hands full. A man had appeared at the front door introducing himself as a doctor sent from the coroner's office to examine the body. Was permitted to do so. After a very quick 5-minute examination, he immediately declared that William Desmond Taylor had died of stomach hemorrhage. No sooner was everyone ushered out of the bungalow, and they literally couldn't wait to get out of the bungalow, then the real coroner arrived, took one look at Taylor's body, demanded that it be turned over. There's a bullet hole in the middle of his back. All of a sudden, all of the events that had occurred earlier took on a far different significance.
Police discovered that the gentleman director was anything but. He'd come to Hollywood with a new identity after deserting a wife and child in New York. Who else knew this startling piece of information? Suspect number 1, Edward Sands, Taylor's chauffeur, who had disappeared after stealing Taylor's jewelry and car. Authorities believed Sands was really Taylor's brother, and he was blackmailing the director with his true identity and his sexual dalliances. Suspect number 2 was Mary Miles Minter, Paramount's 17-year-old answer to Mary Pickford, heard in this rare publicity message recorded in 1920.
My friend, I have often wanted to talk to you. I know that I owe you a debt of gratitude, more than I can ever repay. But all I can say is that I will try harder and harder than ever to please and entertain you. I thank you again and again. Mary Miles Minter.
The fatherless girl was deeply infatuated with Taylor. Her friends reported that she wrote him love letters and pleaded with him to rescue her from her mother's grip, pleas that Taylor spurned. Which leads to the third suspect, Charlotte Shelby, Mary Miles Minter's mother. She had a horrendous reputation at Paramount for being an extremely overbearing mother when it came to her daughter's money. Mary's contract even had a clause which shifted all money to her mother. Rumors flew that she'd even threatened to shoot William Desmond Taylor and anyone else who tried to take away Mary from her. And then there was Mabel Normand. The premier comedienne of the silent screen, Mabel Normand had at one time been engaged to Taylor. She visited him the night of his murder, and police believed she was the last person to see him alive. After 6 months of pursuing love cults, bootleggers, scorned lovers, dual lives, and disappearing servants, police reached a dead end. Edward Sands was never found, and Kirkpatrick believed he committed suicide later that year. Mary Miles Minter's fans were aghast at her involvement with a man more than twice her age. Paramount immediately dropped her. Mabel Normand's career slowly fell apart after the murder. She would die before her 36th birthday of cocaine, alcohol, and tuberculosis. 4 decades passed before director King Vidor decided to make a movie based on the murder of his old friend, William Desmond Taylor. During his own investigation, he uncovered the shocking truth.
He had a lot more going into his investigation than the police ever had. He knew a lot of Taylor's friends personally, and he eventually visited Mary Miles Minter. King not only discovered that Charlotte Shelby had shot Taylor because she felt that William Desmond Taylor was making sexual advances on her daughter, but he discovered that Charlotte Shelby very well might have faked her own death.
It started the night Mary Miles Minter fled her mother's house and took refuge at Taylor's. Charlotte Shelby followed her, and in a jealous rage, shot Taylor in his living room. Mary Miles Minter was an expensive star for the studio, but her box office draw was disappointing. When Paramount executives found out about the murder before the police did, they immediately went to work. Studio executives placed panties in Taylor's bedroom. Then they leaked to the press that the panties were monogrammed with the initials MMM. Minter's association with the case quickly put an end to her career. It also helped cover up another potential embarrassment. Vidor discovered that Taylor's disinterest in Mary Miles Minter stemmed from the fact that he was homosexual. Vidor learned this from interviewing Taylor's friend, George Hopkins, who knew firsthand about Taylor's relationships with women. Furthermore, Vidor discovered why the case was never solved. Charlotte Shelby used her daughter's money to pay off 3 generations of district attorneys. When the money ran out in 1957, Shelby faked her own death and lived the remainder of her life in complete seclusion with Mary. Minta died in 1984. She never revealed her mother's secret, but in a 1967 interview with Vidor, she came close. My mother, she told him, killed everything I ever loved. Within a few years of Taylor's death, Hollywood faced another controversial mystery. This time it wasn't an actor or director, but the head of a studio, Thomas Ince, who worked out of this famous Hollywood landmark.
Before we go to Ince, I wanted to say something about the other one. Incredible how the studio works. I want you to think about that for a minute. A powerful place. It's almost like, think of it as a big corporation, but something like Disney. They think these are, the arrogance that must be in these offices of the people who run these studios. The fact that they can feel like they can have any girl that walks in the door or any guy, that they can tell them what they can and can't do. They whisk them off for these arranged abortions, and whether they want them or not, under an assumed name in another town, and everything is so covert. It's almost like a little country, and it's a government of a country, and they're controlling all of its subjects. You know what I mean? It's crazy how they can find a human being dead on the floor. They've got producers on their knees in front of a fireplace with a roaring father throwing papers in. You've got people rifling through drawers and coming in and out. Like you said, it almost sounded like the Keystone Cops were there, And I don't know, it's the time that the Keystone Cops were there. So I don't know if they were actual Keystone Cops there or they were acting like the Keystone Cops, because that can go either way, right, Steve?
Absolutely.
And they got away with it. And then they thought, hold on, wait a minute. We got that actress. She's not as big a draw as I thought, we thought she was going to be. And she's kind of been involved with him before. Everybody, the public knows that. If we take a pair of underwear with her monogram, where are we going to get that? We don't even have to have it. We're just going to say we have it. And all the other, dudes with the cigars going, you're going to get a promotion. You know what I mean? And they screwed everybody. And this witch takes her daughter, whisks her away, and winds up getting what she wanted after she kills this guy and exiles themselves and, dies, some kind of reclusive life, got away with it. And this girl just sadly at the end, my mother killed everything I ever loved. You let her. Was there at no time she was ever asleep in the house? She couldn't have put I'm not advocating violence, but you know what I'm saying? Little pillow over the face, an accident, a little foot, maybe stick a little foot out when she's going down the stairs, a little whoops, I'm just saying, why just let somebody steal your whole life, Steve? This is infuriating. I can't even form whole sentences. It pisses me off so much.
And we'll point out that Cisco's opinions do not necessarily reflect those of the other staff management here at
do not necessarily reflect Cisco's opinion. For it may change. Wait 5. It's like the weather here in New Jersey. Wait 5 minutes, it'll change.
There was a really, really, really good book by a man named Sidney Kirkpatrick.
Is that the one
King Vider's biographer? Vider, King was his first name. He basically solved the crime, or came as closer to the investigations.
Is that who she was talking about?
Probably.
Because he went in. He
found all this, but he considered it was just too explosive to publish. But then he locked his findings away. But then when he died, I think it was in 82.
Ted's got to go to sleep.
82. Sidney Kirkpatrick wrote A Cast of Killers, which
Good night, sweetheart.
basically unraveled the mystery.
Good
Good night, Ted.
night, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. Boom, boom, boom. Good night. Go curl up with Connor and dream of Hollywood murders. Sleep well. It's terrible. They keep getting away with it over and over and over and over and over. It's insanity, Steve. I mean, at what point in time, I'm glad it makes me mad, because here's the thing. I can't imagine a day where I would just be okay with it. You know what I mean?
Seriously.
So, well, there's another one bites the dust. I don't know. I don't know how to wrap my head around it. I guess at least knowing about it and uncovering it and getting as close to the truth as we possibly can is in some way an appeasement, because what can I do except try to know, maybe see it coming, you know what I mean? In the future, people acting shady, doing this kind of stuff, dropping underwear with people's monograms and throwing things in fireplaces. I'll recognize it. I don't know.
The studio heads were in there burning stuff in the fireplace. And I think Mary Miles Minter herself was in there trying to find letters that she had written to the guy to smuggle them out there. And this is a crime scene. I mean, they just found a body here. Hey, Gory Tiger, how you doing?
But name them off. Steve, say Marilyn Monroe, Villisca Axe murder, the Bordens. It's almost everything we've ever studied on this show and more. But if you think about it, because sometimes we'll go after it like a ghost case, but if you have a ghost, there was something happened, So a lot of times those are hooked into a murder mystery or true crime or a mystery. What happened? Did she fall? Was she pushed? That kind of thing. You know what I mean? So, and then we wind up in, this nasty crime scene stuff, but that's incredible. Time after time after time. I mean, I bet you can name a bunch off the top of your head. How many times, they said people were allowed to tramps over the crime scene.
Yeah.
Hundreds of people in there snapping off pieces of the house as souvenirs. And I'd like to say it's better 100 years later or 70 years later. I don't think it is, Steve.
John Benet Ramsey, that happened back in the 90s. That crime scene was...
There's another one.
From the word go. People were tramping all through there and stuff. And the police there in Colorado, we've never had to handle a case like this. So. And instead
time after time. And what's always the excuse?
And his friend to go look around and see if anything looks out of place.
Ooh, that makes me so mad. And and the thing is again, I say the thing is we've got to stop. We got to get out of the mindset of thinking that if it's on a label, it's true. We got to get out of the mindset that somebody's watching that. You know what I mean? Because they're not. They're watching it, but not why you think. And more of this stuff is true than you would believe. Just like in a paranormal case, the wacky stuff is actually the truth.
No sense makes sense. That's a Charles Manson quote, but it applies in everyday life as well. No sense makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it is just they got away with it again, and here comes another one. Might as well roll the tape. Here we go.
Ince was one of the most famous producers in Hollywood, as famous in his day as Spielberg or Lucas are today. But it would be short-lived fame.
She had a little class.
Ince Studios was one of Hollywood's busiest lots in 1924 due to the power and genius of Thomas Harper Ince. One of the most important, influential men in Hollywood history, his combined talents as a writer, producer, and director set the standards of quality in the industry for decades to come. Power attracts power, and Ince had many friends in high places. Among them, publisher William Randolph Hearst and his mistress, actress Marion Davies. November 19th was Ince's 42nd birthday, so Davies and Hearst decided to throw a party for him on board their yacht. On that day, Ince did his normal morning exercises and left his wife with the kids at home. He drove down to the yacht in Wilmington, California, and set sail towards San Diego. At this point, the facts become less clear. The official story is that Ince became ill, was taken off the boat, and died of a heart attack 2 days later. But the eyewitnesses over the years have often expressed contradictory statements that have forced the case to remain subject to wide and varied speculation. The most persistent rumor regarding the disastrous voyage.
I got to stop it for a second and point out the fact that this was such a cool little documentary. And I know Steve will agree. I'm sure he's noticed already that one is really good because you get to see all these little clips and films that you never get to see before, so that's a real treat. Second of all, you get to see the cinematography in this and the producing. It was early, like green screen. They were playing around with that a little bit, and they had some other little cheeky things they were doing with the shooting. Like she'll go walk by, I think it's like a battleship or something, or it might be a condo. I don't know, can't remember. But she'll walk by and she's in the window, and they were trying to be really clever. And now you look back all these years later, and you go, "Wow, this is really." But it was the beginning of all that, and then you look at what we have now with AI and photo layering and Adobe and all this stuff. It's mind-blowing. But this was state of the art back then. And it just looks funny. It's an added bonus.
Centered around Charlie Chaplin. In a New York Daily News article at the time, it was theorized that Hearst suspected Charlie and Marion were romantically involved. And during the party, he discovered them together. In a rage, Hearst drew his diamond-studded revolver and fired at Chaplin, but missed, killing Ince by mistake. Chaplin's chauffeur Kono, seen here in this short, didn't help matters either. He told the rest of Chaplin's servants that he saw Ince being carried off the boat with a bullet wound in his head. Hollywood gossip columnist Luella Parsons, who reportedly was on board that night, would deny being anywhere near the boat. Hearst had his newspaper report that Ince was at his hillside castle. This story was soon recanted when eyewitnesses said they saw Ince being carried off the yacht. Chaplin would later claim in his autobiography that he was never on the yacht and that he visited Ince 3 weeks after the party. But photos show him on board, and he reportedly attended the funeral just a few days later. To this day, Ince's family insists that he died at home.
I lived in her home after my young husband, her son, was killed. And she said that she had been called from San Clemente, where he had been put ashore with an attack of his very serious ulcer condition. And Mr. Ince was brought back on the back seat of this car. She said they laid him out on the back seat. He was perfectly conscious, but very sick man. And brought him home upstairs, put in bed, and 3 days later died of his ulcer attack.
As far as the death of Tom Ince, I think that the gossip is so varied. There's no way of knowing. Did he have a heart attack? Was he thrown overboard? Did he get shot? None of it ever came out. The influence of William Randolph Hearst was enormous, and it was enough to keep buried whatever happened to Thomas Ince.
Ince's studio is located close to several others, including the Hal Roach Studios. Back in the 30s, this was the home of Laurel and Hardy, Harold Lloyd, and the Little Rascals. Some considered it to be one of the finest studios in Hollywood, and its boss was proud.
See what I mean?
Had very little temperament at the studio.
That's him there, isn't it, Steve?
Yeah, that's the man.
Yep, and like I said, even though he's going to say here how his was, people were treated better, but then again, they're all liars, obviously. Shifty some bitches, I swear to God.
I mean, all the people that worked there, either in feature pictures or comedies, were professionals, and they worked well. And I think the Harlow studio had a reputation of being one of the studios that it was nice to work at it.
Under the masterful guidance of Hal Roach, his studio prospered, tickling the nation's funny bone throughout the 20s and 30s.
Pete. How many Pete's were there in the Little Rascals? I think it's 8, isn't it? 8 or 9? How close am I, guys?
Something like that. It was not much weight.
I think there was 8 different ones. I can't remember. I could be way off. I have no idea. I'm just guessing.
Thank you, boys. Where'll you be when I need you?
Right here.
Okay.
Boy, they did a lot of stuff, Steve, Laurel,
I
and
told you
Hardy.
not to make that last payment.
One of Roach's principal stars was Thelma Todd.
Interested in the scenery?
You won't get away with that when you grow up.
With what?
Talking with your mouth full. It isn't done.
I do it.
You always do what you want, don't you?
I always know what I want, and usually get it.
The dazzling ice cream blonde also owned a chic seaside cafe that, just like Thelma herself, was very popular with the movie crowd. Her apartment was in the hills above the restaurant, in the home of director Roland West, her partner in the cafe, and some say her lover. On Saturday, December 14th, 1935...
Gotta appreciate the way Lauren Bacall says lover.
After a fight with West, Thelma attended a party given in her honor at the Trocadero. Her chauffeur drove her home at 4 a.m., and she never made it to her apartment. During the next 18 hours, Todd was seen all over town in the company of a dark, handsome stranger. She even telephoned a friend who was giving a Sunday afternoon party to see if she could bring the stranger, but Thelma never made it to that party.
The 10 o'clock on that she was missing from a Saturday night party until Monday morning. At 10 o'clock Monday morning, the sheriff's office came to my office and told me exactly what had happened, and they asked me what to do because they couldn't find any of her relatives.
Thelma Todd's body was found by her maid on Monday morning, slumped in the driver's seat of her car, parked in Roland West's garage. She was still dressed in the coat and gown she'd worn to the Trocadero, but now they were spattered with blood. Her death had been caused by carbon monoxide poisoning, but a tooth had been knocked out, and there were questionable bruises on her neck. At her feet, by her evening bag, were 2 extortion letters. Strong rumors circulated that mobster Lucky Luciano had tried to convince Thelma to open an illegal casino above the cafe. Police labeled it suicide and placed the time of death at 4 a.m. Sunday. However, at the coroner's inquest, 9 people testified that they'd seen Todd at various times on Sunday between 9 a.m. and 11 p.m. Then, abruptly, these same witnesses recanted their testimony. Even Thelma's mother, who had cried murder from the outset, now insisted her daughter's death was suicide. A waiter at the Trocadero was threatened with kidnapping, and Todd's maid was warned to keep her mouth shut. There was no further investigation.
Okay, Steve, your thoughts on that one? I know you know a little bit about the Todd situation.
Yeah, again, I think it's a
Todd case.
cover-up. I don't think anything happened the way it was reported in the media, as usual.
Mm. The sticky wickets in this case are, you have no problem believing that the mob would want that property. It's oceanfront property. As you see, it was beautiful. And it was very oddly built. So the mansion, you know how like Laurel Canyon, everything's on top of each other. If they had an earthquake or a slide, they'd be in trouble because it's really steep. And there's houses on top of houses.
Laurel Canyon in a pile.
I can't even imagine, now if you live there, you're used to it, but so it's up above. Her car is usually parked in a garage that would be in between. So if you think of these like 3 actually different structures, like a sandwich. So the top is where the house is that supposedly she's living with her lover, This guy who's very mysterious at this point. Now, this is again, nobody's like owning up to this. They're just saying that they lived in the same house together. Okay. She parks in the garage below that, so in the center. And then the actual club, or it's becoming a restaurant with this guy. This is also her partner she's living with, right? And it's rumored that the mob wants this as a perfect gambling site.
What better spot? There's Hollywood elite, lots of money,
Yeah,
booze. It's a perfect mob thing.
extortion letters found at her feet. Right. There's a lot of stuff you're going to hear about her shoes. They were scuffed. There was 236 stairs that she would have had to go up to the house, or up to where the car was. She was dropped off out front. Right. She didn't want to have the driver walk her up. That was stated by him. That's what he said anyway. You're only going on the people that were there that are going to, say. Now, they're saying that she wasn't dating this guy, or it wasn't her lover, but this guy's punishing her because he doesn't want her going out so much, and he wants her to cut back on the drinking and the partying. And he says, if you're not home by a certain time, I'm locking the door. Now, that's either your mother or your husband or your boyfriend. It's, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I'm going to lock the door as a punishment if you're not home and he did. And he admitted he did. And he didn't say he heard anything. The dog didn't react. Now did he? We'll never know. Only he knows, right? And maybe her. There's no dispute she was drinking. What gets me is the amount, Steve. They're saying that she started drinking that afternoon. She's dressed. She's got, they're saying shoes, but they're really those like little gold slippers kind of thing. Ladies, you know what I'm talking about.
Gold springulators, I think is what.
Yeah. Like they almost were elasticy too, almost like a ballet slip-on kind of thing. Something similar. They weren't new. It was stated in some of the papers that she had new shoes on. They didn't have scuffs, so she must have been carried. So there's all these extra facts. Forget about that. Watch the big ones. Okay. So you've got them all laid out. It's rumored that she's getting pressure from this and they really want it. They're also saying that she started going out and drinking early that afternoon on Saturday. She goes out. She's seen out with a tall, dark guy, dark hair, well-dressed, partying, all about town. She's supposedly partying well into the next day, according to witnesses, and making phone calls and like noticeable showing up around town. She almost sounds like Lee Harvey Oswald around Dallas. You know what I'm saying? He's popping up everywhere. But the best one I think is she had to go into a bar. She had somebody with her. She asked to use the phone. She had to get change. A lot of people saw her because they're making change. The bartender, look at her. She walks into a bar. A half drunk guy sitting at a bar go, hey, of course they noticed her. And that's the one I believe. And she's still going. So I want to see the toxicology report. She's not just on alcohol. She's cocaine, something. She's up. She's up. She's walking. She's partying. She's making phone calls inquiring about parties on Sunday afternoon. She's still going. According to the witness reports. According to the police report, she's dead Saturday. See that?
Yeah, there's some things that don't add up.
Yeah,
we're inconclusive.
Yep. Supposedly she was found by the maid in the morning because what the drill was. Now, this pretty good sources on this. I would agree with this. Probably happened that the maid had a habit of driving her car up the hill, right into the garage, getting into her car and driving it down so Todd wouldn't have to go up the hill to get into the car. Makes sense to me. That was a routine. Other people validated that, the driver. Okay. So the maid's who found her. She drives her car up there, opens up the garage, which is a sliding door. Finds her in the, Now she says she found her sitting up in the passenger side, leaned over. The cop report says that she was slumped like the picture you saw over at the driver's side. Got a tooth missing and blood. There's some blood, I would imagine, foamy blood from
And some
carbon
bruising
monoxide.
on her neck.
That's it, you know? And why are the police lying about the time? Or somebody's lying. I believe the guys in the bar, you know what I mean? Either late Saturday night or early Sunday morning. Either way, you know, they're leaning toward tipsy. They're probably going to tell it, you know, like it is. They're hungover. Yeah, we saw her. She came in. I gave her change. You know, probably never spend that damn dollar he changed, whatever. You know what I mean? I believe that a little bit more than, I don't know. Something's up. You know, it deserves digging into, I think. So that's your basic facts. There's a new book out on this too. I'm thinking about reading it. I'll let you know what I find out. But I think the poor girl, you know, she's never going to get justice, obviously, but at least we get the truth if we try. You know, if new stuff is really coming out, or at least the old stuff is coming out, and that's new facts because they hid it from us for so long. Right, Steve?
Yep.
I don't know who this one is, but I'm going to make sure I get one in before we got to go. I think it's important to see, and it's going to blow your mind if you don't know about it already. And that's the one involving John Wayne. So, but to see what this next one is, and if it's not it, we'll jump to that one.
Down the block from the Ince and Roach studios was their big brother, MGM, touted as having more stars than there are in the heavens. MGM was a city unto itself with a great deal of power. They discovered stars, shaped them, and kept them under tight watch.
Sorry, guys.
The biggest premiere ever seen anywhere in the world before or since. 500,000 people are lining the streets.
Hell's Angels, Steve.
Harlow.
See that? That's crazy.
I would like to use this occasion to publicly thank Mr. Hughes for the opportunity he gave me.
Though she received poor reviews, audiences responded to her coarse, platinum glamour, and MGM executives like Irving Thalberg took notice.
I believe that Thalberg was very strong in believing that she had great star qualities. For that reason, I was asked by Paul Byrne to look for something that she could do. And one of the things that came along was Red-Headed Woman, which we bought when the first episode appeared in the Saturday Evening Post. Now, until then, Jean was known totally as a platinum blonde, and in fact, that was the title of one of her films that Frank Capra had directed. However, Paul conceived the notion, Paul Byrne, that it would start her career all over if she dropped the platinum blonde aspect and dyed her hair or used a wig or whatever they chose to do. And she was given this very, very sexy role. It was a part of a young girl working in an office in which she began by making passes at her boss, who was a married man, and then she went from bed to bed as she climbed right up to the racetrack at Longchamp.
They were lousy with it in the
Did
30s,
you
Steve.
Mr. Legenda?
Yeah.
They were terrible. They're all randy.
The very presence of the sex-exquisite Jean Harlow was enough to send Hollywood censor Will Hayes into fits of righteous indignation. With the release of Red-Headed Woman, she rivaled Mae West for the bad girl of 1932. Hayes declared the story of a girl who sleeps her way to the top a clear violation of the production code.
The code sets up high standards
Here
of
we go.
performance for motion picture producers. It states the considerations which good taste and community value make necessary in this universal form of entertainment. Respect for law, respect for every religion, respect for every race, and respect for every nation.
I have to tell you
He's
that
all in.
Red-Headed Woman caused an awful lot of censor boards to be created. She was the target, to a great extent, to women's clubs, but you must go back to the 30s to realize that it would look anything but sexy, I'm sure, if you look at it today. But in those days, it was a very daring picture, and she played it marvelously.
Bill, you needn't worry about your picture anymore. I've even learned to beat it sweet.
Tonight we are pleased to present the most glamorous
That was a
star
lot
of
for
motion pictures,
1932.
Miss Jean Harlow. She will be interviewed by your Hollywood on the
The
Air.
sensation made 25-year-old Jean Harlow the hottest box office attraction in the world. A scandal was destined to be a part of Harlow's personal life as well. The MGM publicity machine had its hands full, not keeping Jean in the news, but keeping her out of it. It began with a wild speculation surrounding the death of her husband, Paul Byrne, the facts of which have been hidden to this day.
Now it was developing that Paul Byrne had a common law wife, which virtually no one knew about. Her name was Dorothy Millette. They had lived together in the Algonquin Hotel in New York long enough to be considered legally married, even without having had any marriage ceremony. So Dorothy Millette took ill. She lost her mind. She was consigned into a sanitarium where Paul paid all the bills. Paul never denied his connections with Dorothy Millette, but he never told anybody about it, and that includes Jean Harlow.
Byrne was faced with a potential scandal, one that would make him appear to be a bigamist, and he chose the only way out he knew. After writing Harlow a brief note, Byrne pulled out a pistol and shot himself. That morning, the gardener found Byrne's body and called MGM Studios. Mayer and Thalberg raced to the house, arriving even before the police did.
Paul had shot and killed himself, as far as I know, that previous night. The gardener was sitting in the rim of the swimming pool of this little house that he had built, Byrne had built, telling Thalberg that he came that morning and he saw two broken wine glasses, one broken and one and very beautiful crystal, and he thought maybe it could be repaired, so he took the pieces and he carried them into the house, and he saw Paul Byrne's body there. Paul was shot. Now, I'm thinking that Paul killed himself purely for the reason that he was going to save the reputation of Jean Harlow, and he could do nothing about Dorothy Millette at that point without causing a tremendous scandal. So he took himself out of the way.
Mayer and Thalberg knew they had a scandal of enormous proportions brewing. If Harlow became involved in a bigamy case, it would surely destroy her career. The executives came up with a contrived story that to this day has remained as the accepted truth.
It was Louis B. Mayer and Howard Strickling who said, "We have heard rumors that Paul was impotent. Paul was always doing things for women and not making passes at them." That was enough to lead to any kind of reputation of being impotent.
Harlow would soon marry and divorce cameraman Hal Rosner before meeting actor William Powell. It seemed like a match made in heaven, but the dream was soon shattered. A real trooper, Jean never complained about her grueling 6-day schedules. When she fell ill on the set of Saratoga, Jean insisted that a weekend at home under the care of her mother was all that she needed. It would be a tragic mistake.
Jean Bellow was a very ardent Christian Scientist. She would have no truck with doctors or present-day medicine. And while I'm not sure they called it penicillin in 1937, they did develop something of a sulfur drug which preceded penicillin, and which, from all reports that I ever heard, and I was at the studio at the time, might have cured Jean from whatever she was afflicted with. But Jean Bellow refused to let anybody see her daughter, refused to give her medical help, and nobody knew how sick she was. And then suddenly she was gone.
America's blonde bombshell, the very picture of vitality and life, had suffered an agonizing and needless death. The day of Harlow's funeral, MGM closed down, and every other studio in Hollywood observed a minute of silence in memory of their fallen queen.
It's just so sad. And then they just let her die, and she's laying up there suffering, and her mom won't even get her help. So we've got some other ones, but I'm going to jump ahead because I want to end tonight with a little John Wayne. What do you say?
Sounds good.
Sounds good. I don't want to give it to James Dean. We've seen a little bit of him. Each one of these has a little bit, another piece of information. As you get closer to now, the older you go back, they're still going on old stuff when you get up to the, and sometimes getting closer to it, you get the truth and then it gets messed up. So you never know which way they're going to go. Where did this go? No, that's him. That's another one. All of this stuff is crazy. Where is it? I'll find it, guys. Give me a sec. Man, I hope it's here. Dude. There's a lot of it. Come on. Superman. I don't believe that one either. Here we go. All right. That's a good way to end it out.
One of those tests would inadvertently involve the cast and crew of an RKO film called The Conqueror. A Howard Hughes.
This is a humdinger, Steve.
Yep.
Hell of a picture.
The last film Howard Hughes personally produced for RKO was The Conqueror in 1954. The studio kingpin planned a visual spectacular based on the adventures of Genghis Khan. The Conqueror started out as a true Hollywood epic with a cast of thousands, headed up by one of America's favorite actors, John Wayne, and Susan Hayward as the Tartar princess.
This is terrible.
Under his heel, the cowering nation. In his arms, the unconquered woman. He took what he wanted when he wanted it.
Such bad acting. Look at this.
Meets his fire with ice, matches his fury with flame.
Your hatred will kindle into love.
Before that day dawns, the vultures will feast it on your heart.
Barbara Stanwyck slap.
Tempted to barter an empire.
John Wayne is Genghis Khan. Is it Genghis Khan? That's who he's playing, right?
One of America's great singing stars in classics like Footlight Parade had recently turned director. The Conqueror was only his second effort, but it's doubtful that even a more experienced director could have saved this picture.
So bad.
It was earmarked for disaster in more ways than one.
Get a load of this.
Well, Kulik, for while I have fingers to grasp a sword and eyes to see, your treacherous head is not safe on your shoulders, nor your daughter in her bed.
These battle scenes
I'm
were shot
sorry,
on
it's so
location in
bad.
the desert near St. George, Utah. No one in the cast or crew knew that the area was contaminated, the result of a United States government experiment, code-named Dirty Harry.
There it is. You knew about this. Remember we talked about this earlier? Yeah. It's horrible. It's really just bad casting.
During the morning of May 19th, 1953, at 5:05 a.m., Dirty Harry was detonated in the Nevada test site. Unexpectedly, a sudden wind change picked up the blast's contaminants and carried the highly radioactive cloud across St. George, purportedly dropping a deadlier fallout than was even felt around Hiroshima or Nagasaki. Accidents like this caused the military to produce this instructional film on what to do in case of accidents.
In a building,
duck and cover.
Substantial.
There it is, Steve, right?
Will protect you from falling debris.
We're in school. They used to make us get under our desks for those drills.
You can't get to any covered position.
Draw a psyop, Steve.
Hit the ground wherever you are and cover the exposed parts of your body, even if you have no warning before you see the flash.
The Conqueror was shot over 3 decades ago.
Propaganda.
During that time, more than 30 members of the cast and crew have died from cancer, including
It's amazing.
Dick Powell, Susan Hayward,
Look at them all.
Agnes Moorehead, Pedro Armendariz, and John Wayne. Add to that total a number of residents from St. George who have also developed the deadly disease. The mystery remains alive today as residents of the entire region in and around St. George are demanding a government investigation into the questions that have never fully been answered.
They probably just put condos on there now. I bet you anything. And somebody Google Earth that and see what's there.
By the end of the 50s, the studio system was changing drastically. Theater audiences diminished and television became the predominant entertainment form, making TV stars as famous as movie stars. One of the most popular shows was filmed in this room.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll come back to him. Steve, I think this is going to go on a hot minute. We'll probably pick it up on another Monday in the future because there's more. I don't think we're ever going to run out of Hollywood of dirt.
Yeah, we could do this every Monday probably for the next 3 or 4 months.
It's fun digging into some of these cases and seeing how they've developed over time, how they've changed, the different evidence that's found and brought in, and I still have people.
Level has changed on a lot of them too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it's funny how you'll see these little bursts now of them even making an effort to put out disinformation for the Kennedy shooting. I mean, gosh, we're up to what, 60 now? 60 plus? Yeah. And still, they'll throw it out there when people, a new book comes out.
A few years ago, writing a book about the Lincoln assassination, he started getting death threats. There's stuff that's never supposed to come to light.
You ain't lying, my friend. I mean, I dug into that and I started pulling up some dirty, dirty stuff. And let me tell you something, those groups, they didn't go away. They just changed their name and got bigger and shifted around. Yep. I mean, if you look back, the same hands are still in the same cookie jar. It's just, your mileage may vary and, whatever. And some of the cookies got nuts in it now, I mean, it's just,
some stuff
it's the same people
to remain inconclusive.
Yep. And the same groups and the same evil versus good and everything in between. That's why we're here every Monday to try to help sort it. We're never going to, like you said, some of it's we're not supposed to understand it. We might not be supposed to understand it yet. Maybe we will later.
Yeah.
Who knows? It's fun to try to find out. But out of all those, I think, the Todd gets me because there's so many intriguing things there, but it almost feels like injecting interesting facts in, like they do on multiple different scales, just to throw you off. And if they do that, it's usually for a reason. And like people were saying here in the chat, why would they do it? What's their motive? Usually greed, money, blackmail, covering it up, keeping, with the studios involved, they just want to get rid of the stars that aren't making the money, that they still are stuck in a contract. Like, hey, hold on. It's fat. And I'm not saying this happened, but Fatty's making a little bit too much money. He was in my office last week, he's, get a little too big for his britches, coming in here asking us for double, this because the box office isn't doing good, told him that, we got money invested in you. And, the same old story, whether it's Fatty Arbuckle or Prince or anybody else that's ever got ripped off or the stuff stolen. I mean, it's been happening forever. But the murder and the people getting away with that, God, there's so many stories. Like you said, Steve, we go on like this probably 6 months and not run out. Did you ever hear the one about Burt Reynolds in the old motel off the side of the mountain in Northern California?
I don't think I've heard that one. If I did, I've kind of forgotten about it in the midst of time, but it wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, calling a cleaner, hey, got myself, I'm in a tight spot. You know what I mean?
Send lawyers, guns, and money. The shit has hit the fan.
What was the guy's name, Steve? Hold on, I'll get it. Getting tired, folks. Beretta.
Oh yeah.
Robert Blake.
And he was in the Little Rascals. He's one of the few surviving ones. As far as I know, he's still alive.
Yeah. But I mean, wasn't there a little scuttlebutt going on with him sitting in some restaurant with a gun and a paper bag, and his wife
he got back
shot
out to the car. His wife had been shot, but it couldn't have been him because he left his gun in the restaurant. So yeah, there were some things
There
that
was
didn't
some
add up
weird
there,
stuff.
but
And
he was exonerated. So who's to say?
if I remember correctly, there was something going on. Was that the case where there was a couple of people, or at least one person, saying that he had tried to solicit them to murder her? Or
Yeah,
am I getting that
Bonnie
wrong?
Blakely was the woman's name. She was
Yeah.
a serial star, whatever she was. She tried to do that to a lot of different people.
Well, I just don't know, Steve. I think you go talk
Inconclusive.
about your spider webs. Inconclusive. Yep. Spider webs. What do you got going on this week, my friend?
Just the usual stuff. Releases every day over on Missing Persons and Mysteries.
Yep.
Put my entire back catalog up over there. So there's, I think, about 300 videos, and I'm just scratching the surface so far. New content on the way. Of course, the radio show and the other podcasts still have Among the Missing, but going to get a new look coming up over there soon. I'm moving all the missing stuff over to Missing Persons and Mysteries. And I'm about to bring 13 Past Midnight out of hiatus.
I'm sorry, Steve. Glenn asked me this. Now I'm confused too. I don't know. There's so many blondes, Glenn.
It's probably
the one
remember
that
her
died
name.
in a plane crash is married to
Clark
Gable. And
Yeah,
then he
just
signed up
outside
for the
Las
war and
Vegas.
said, I don't care if I ever come back. You know, I mean, he loved her,
I
man.
can't
I mean,
think
I
of her
crushed
name
him.
now.
They say that airplane, the little luncheonette thing that's by the plane hangar there, is haunted.
Yeah. And he
because
paced
of that.
around the wood stove in there while they're waiting for news.
Yep.
And parts of her plane are still up on the, is it Mount Charleston? I don't remember the name of the place. Just outside Vegas. I know people that have hiked up there.
Now, I don't know why you were asking the
Carol
question
Lombard.
there, Glenn, but
Is that Carol Lombard?
it was Lombard. Yeah. Harlow was the, yeah. I know there's a lot of keep your blonde sorted, Glenn. Don't get confused. I know. I it's just like real quick. I was like, whoa. But Todd, I'll always remember because, like I said, I got information on her going through the organized crime side of it. So I know there's something more going on there because it just doesn't add up. It's way too. And how they let this go for so long and just nothing. I mean, is there ever? It seems like the only one that ever gets pinched for anything is the little guy, and half the time he didn't do it. You know,
He got
the
left
regular
holding the
guy.
bag.
It doesn't have. Maybe we should just start our own, the little guy studios, and we'll just be our own conglomerate and just
Sounds
be
good to me.
a Disney. We can start a Disney. We got enough people, right? Everybody just do what you do, and we'll make it just whimsical land or something, and just take over, buy up all the property.
Abnormal acres.
Well, I'll tell you what. Tomorrow night, I dropped another good mystery, old classic radio mystery. I'll be in there listening with you. It's The Cantankerous Ghost. It's a great story. It's very 70s, but it's really neat. But this one's not based on a true story, but I think it could happen, and I think you're going to like it. So join me tomorrow night for that. I think that's 8:00 tomorrow if you want to be there, and get over there and sub to Ghost Lore. Listen, all these mods in here, they're dropping links. They're always helping, trying to get people to get a t-shirt.
It's going to be a Ghost Lore is going to be a guest on here one night to talk.
Yes,
about that,
we need to set up. Pick a couple dates, honey, and send me some
testimony of a
dates.
ghost in
We'll
court.
sort it. Be
First,
great.
and probably only case of its kind. But,
Yep, we've got a lot of people on the on the track waiting to get up in there. And tell you what, I just like sometimes I just don't do it till like the week before because I never know what I'm going to do. My job can shift like, and getting through the holidays, boy, that's a bouncy thing. You have to be like a
we got Easter coming up now,
serpentine, trying to do stuff. Huh? Valentine's,
Easter coming up. Do they do? I guess
it's
St. Pat.
Well, St. Patrick's Day is one Sunday, and then the next Sunday's Easter. And then you got Mother's Day. Mother's Day is probably worse than Valentine's. And then you're coasting for a while. But then you got wedding season, so it never really stops. At least in this job, I can celebrate the holidays on the holiday. When I was at AC Moore and you're doing that crafting stuff, you're making Christmas ornaments in 4th of July. So you get holiday whiplash because you have to be ahead of everything for the craft shows. And it's crazy. All right, guys. Let's see what I'm going to play us out of here and something nice. I love y'all. See you tomorrow night. If you can't make it, hey, no problem. I'll see you guys next Sunday, and who knows what we'll have going on. It's always fun here.
Good night, everybody. Stay
Because
safe.
it's all about you guys. Good night,
see you
Steve. Thank
soon.
you for
Good
being
night,
here. My
everybody.
love to
Always.
Nick and Mulder. Love you, baby.
I'll tell
Have
them.
a good
Thank
night.
you. Good night.
Stay
Bye-bye.
safe. See you over on your channel, babe.
Right. Bye.
Good night.